whenever I find myself looking at lives of people I look up to, whether it's a bigger YouTuber, a comedian, I've been into stand up comedy a lot lately. I love myself some Andrew Schultz, Tony Hinchcliffe, and the like. But every time I look into people who have mastered their craft or who are really at the top 0.1% of their craft, I always realize that not only are they, of course, talented and they're skillful, but to get to that point was a lot of reps. I think one of the most classic examples on YouTube specifically is MKBHD. So MKBHD has a very popular video. If you go to his YouTube channel and sort it by oldest, it's that one video of him when he was like super young. Like, I don't know if he was a preteen or a teenager. It looked like he was like between 12 to 14 years old, reviewing a remote of a laptop, I believe. And that was, I don't know, more than a decade ago. And then you look at MKBHD now, one of the top, or if not the top, tech reviewer on YouTube. And to get to that point, it took a ton of reps, a ton of minutes, seconds, hours, years to reach that point. And there is a point where a lot of people stop and they look at themselves and think and feel, maybe it's not for me, I'm tired or whatever. And people like MKBHD, the Joe Rogans, the Tony Hinchcliffes, the Alex Hermosis, the Dr. Hubermans, and all those types of people, they kind of did the one more rep, one more day after the average person stops at. And it's just something that, I'm super into. Like, I used to read a lot of self-help books. Now, no longer. I kind of more of listen to stuff. I've also been kind of looking into more of like the spiritual side of things as well lately. I am born and raised a Catholic, and I've been kind of looking into that. I did for many years kind of rebel against it as a teenager and a young adult. But recently I've been trying to just reflect and reconnect with it. But that's all. I think all this just kind of I'm in a phase of kind of self-reflection, and I realize that if I want to take my life to the next level, I need to get to know myself more. And I've been kind of studying myself as much as I have been, like what I said earlier, studying others. And what I realized was that, at least this is all just personal jibber jabber, by the way. This is not just, these aren't facts. I'm not saying that this is the way things are, but I think I'm just trying to speak out loud here, maybe for someone who needs to hear this out there. But what I realized was the reason why I look into these people is that I want to reach their level of success one day. And I always look at it and I feel, man, these guys have been doing it for so long. They've been doing so many reps of it. And like I said earlier, where most people quit, they keep doing. Because there are times when we feel like, oh, this is tough. I'm tired. I think I'm burned out. I think that's it for me. And it's in that burnout phase when someone else out there is doing that one more rep. And I want to be that one. I want to be that person, And I'm talking about all this. I'm reflecting about all this because I want to tell you guys a personal story of the last month of my life. So if you guys have been hanging around my live streams or my Discord, you guys might have heard of this story already. But just about sometime in May, I think, end of April, start of May, there was a major leak in my kitchen that was kind of affecting the neighbors. And so obviously there was a big issue, and in order for me not to be liable, we had to do something very quick and very immediate. So we called up a contractor, had our kitchen looked at, and we were quoted a certain price, had the repairs done. And since we had to move everything out to get the repairs done, we had to move to a temporary place, which we did. I thought to myself, might as well do a full kitchen renovation. Well, more of the kitchen counter. So we had our kitchen counter fully renovated, fully repaired. All the pipes were fixed. Thankfully, had an oven installed, a new stovetop, and all that. Because it was this place I currently live at. My brother used to live here, and now that I do, it's worn out. worn out, torn apart, kind of. And over the years, over like the last 4 to 6 years of living here, I have slowly renovated certain parts of it, little by little. So it's old. That's what I'm trying to get at. And what deteriorated recently was the kitchen. It was a major leak. Had everything fixed, so we had to move out for a month. And the thing with renovations is you're given a coat. At least here where I live in the Philippines, I've done many renovations, and it's always you're given an initial coat, but it usually goes two, sometimes three, sometimes four times the amount you were estimated, just because they find new problems. In the process, they just find new things that need to be repaired, which makes sense. And this repair was almost triple of what initially was estimated to me, which was painful. It was actually very painful, but it's like, it's okay, whatever. Let's just do it. We have to do it anyway. So we were out of the house for about a month, and it was pretty tough. It was tough just moving, especially with trying to move my whole setup to another place, and at the same time trying to work in this new place, getting the internet set up, and it's just a lot happening. Like I felt like life was moving pretty fast, and then I had to go back and forth to our home, to our unit, and just check the progress of the renovations. So I couldn't get as much work as I wanted done, like YouTube work and just like work in general, just because there was so much errands to do, so much involved in this whole renovation thing, which again, this problem sounds like it's a good problem to have, right? Like renovations is always a good thing at the end of the day, but it's just every day was just more money being burned and less time being able to work. So there was a lot of anxiety with work and money and all that. And then to top it all off, um, as we were about to move back, this is one of my good friends, Pete. He actually used to work for Twitch. He was a good. I met him through Twitch streaming in 2018, and he eventually applied to be a part of the Twitch. He worked on Twitch, became Twitch staff for a couple of years. Super nice guy. He got into DJing. He got a gig here in the Philippines, so I visited his gig last Friday in a certain area, and I brought a car. So I parked it in this area that where the bar was. There's not much parking. You kind of park in the side street. Parked the side street, and at the end of the night when I came back to my car, someone bent or damaged my plate number, my back plates, because it's not a very safe area. I was surprised, but at the same time not surprised because of the area I was at. It's like, oh, okay. And there were a lot of questions of like, no, why me? Of all people, why me? Why my car? There's so many cars here. Why mine? It's just another hassle to live with, right? Like I gotta spend it's like I felt like I had to spend another day and more money than I already am losing for this, right? And then to add to that, we recently, just a few days ago, we started moving our stuff back since the renovations are done. It took nearly a month. So that Friday, that was just last Friday actually, and then 2 days after, the Sunday, the wife and I finally started getting the move on to go back home. So we started moving stuff from the temporary place we were living in to our actual home. And so we started moving stuff back to find out our fridge wasn't working. And I was like, my goodness, I just spent so much on renovation already. And then I got to deal with this car, with the damages that person did to the car, and another day lost, and then I'd have to spend for maybe a new fridge or repairs, whatever, another day and more money lost, right? So it was just so much happening in the last month, and I proudly sit here right now, proud to say that we got through all of that. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm so proud of us that we got through this whole endeavor kind of sane. I think if I was a lot younger, I would kind of like just be more erratic, more moody, more pissed off. But throughout this whole month of like quote unquote hardship, again, I don't want to call it like, I mean, there are a lot of people out there who like don't even have homes and don't even have food on the table. But we all have our own things, and this was my thing for the last month plus. It was tough. It was a tough time mentally and physically, and I think the part that gave me the most anxiety was like not being able to be fully present when I work, when I do my YouTube videos and my live streams and whatnot, because not only are we not home, I'm uncomfortable in that place we were temporarily at, but also, again, back of my mind while working, while doing live streams, back of my mind, all I'm thinking about is the money we're spending, the days I'm losing because of these renovations and all that. But again, going back to the title of this podcast episode, do the hard things, right? To get to reap your rewards in life, hard things must be done, and hard things you must get through. I guess that was very Yoda like, but again, like I said in the start of this podcast, was that every time I get inspired every time I think about people I look up to. Even I was telling my wife recently that as much as I talk about like celebrities like the Goggins, David Goggins, Joe Rogans, and all that, my dad, right? My dad was able to raise a family of 6 kids. So I do have 5 other siblings, and he came from a very simple life. He was not born rich. He grew up, so he grew up kind of in the outskirts of this. He grew up in an island away from Manila. So Manila is the capital of the Philippines, and his dad, my grandfather, sent him to Manila, to the city, to study. So he grew up without his father, because of his father was working, trying to make ends meet from the island they're from, and he sent my dad to the city. And so my dad lived with his brother as like 15, 16-year-olds, if I'm not mistaken, going to school and then finding work themselves and eventually building careers where they're able to support a whole family. And I think about that a lot. Like, when will I, how do I kind of reach my dad's standards and, these standards of people I look up to? And it goes back to doing hard things. My dad did the hard things. He didn't, maybe he did complain here and there, but he never gave up. He never gave up. He went through the hardships of living alone, not a lot of money, no parents around him, because he was sent to Manila to kind of find a good life while his parents worked in an island across away from Manila. And every time I kind of have moments of like, man, this is really tough, and like, or every time I have moments of like, why am I going through this? Why is it so hard? I question things, and I always realize it's supposed to be like this. Like, this is the path to being a better version of me. It's the path to reaching my goals. It's doing the hard things, getting through them. And today I just came home from the mechanic. Another funny story is that I went to the mechanic with the bent plate number. The bent plate number is not a big deal, but it's not. It could be worse. So that's what I was saying as well. Could have been worse. Could have been slashed tires. Could have been a broken windshield or whatever. But it was still a little bit of a hassle that I felt like, in the moment, I felt like I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this extra problem. I already have enough. Why did someone bend my plate number? And for those of you who have no context of the Philippines, government like agency stuff, like having a plate number replaced is just already, I was dreading it. It was like the biggest hassle that I did not want to go through. So I went to a local mechanic and I asked them, look at this plate number. It was like bent. So the plate number was bent pretty much past 90 degrees. It was, if I try to bend it back, I was worried I might snap it off, and then I'll have to go through the whole actual government replacement. And I went to a mechanic and he's like, let me see what I can do. He basically initially charged me nearly $100 for it because, long story short, they had to kind of open the shell, the back shell of my car, or so it's an SUV. So like I don't know what do you call the back panel? The back panel. They got to kind of separate the back panel and get the screws from the inside, because the plate numbers that are connected to my car, the screws rather that connect the plate numbers to the car, they're anti-theft screws, so they're one way. It's like a one-way bolt, if you know what I mean. So they said they'll have to open up the back panel and then try to remedy it from there, and then they had to. The plan was to, I think, heat up the plate number to bend it back properly where it won't snap. And then they had to weld, because part of the plate number kind of ripped off. They wanted to like weld it back together, all that stuff, right? So initially they were charging me nearly $100, and then it was about 9 a.m. They're like, come back like 5 p.m. end of the day. And then it's like, okay, sure. I left the place. They called me at like 12 noon. They're like, hey, car's done. I was like, really? I went back to the place and they're like, yeah, by the way, it's only you only have to pay us like $20 because this is equivalent, by the way. I only had to pay them about $20, 20 USD equivalent, because they found out that they found a way to do it without having to open the back panel, right? And it wasn't as so like the problem wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and I kind of it's just a nice reward, because like I was expecting the worst. And I can be a little pessimistic at that time. At times, I can be anxious about it, expecting the worst at all times. And it was cool to find out that they found a cheaper way to do it, a faster way to do it. And I looked at it, I was like, it's perfect. It's like it was never bent. And I was just, it was such a small moment. I know this sounds so petty, but I was just so proud of myself in that moment. I was telling my wife about that too. I was like, I was so proud that I kind of went through this whole process. Yeah, frustrated, but at the same time knowing, whatever, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to the mechanic, do the thing, hope for the best. And no, alongside all this, me and the wife and I are just so exhausted from moving. We didn't get any professional movers. We moved everything ourselves back from the rented place to our actual home right now. And just a lot of cleaning. We had post renovation cleaning is the worst. Everything's covered in dust. Just it took us about 2 whole days, like 2 whole days with little breaks in between of cleaning, and then having this car done, and then the fridge. The fridge was. Oh, I don't even get to the story of the fridge before anything. So we came home and started moving stuff. We found out the fridge was broken, and so initially I was like, okay, gotta buy a new fridge. Started checking the prices of new fridges, about $600 to $1,000, at least the size we wanted. I was like, okay, it's another $600 to spend after spending so much for the renovations and all that. And this is before I sent my car to the mechanic too. So this was like in between cleaning up and the car. So there's just like, you just imagine like my brain being overwhelmed with so much right now. And so in my head, I was like, okay, this is probably if we have to get a new fridge, maybe it's gonna cost a lot. If not, maybe have a new compressor for the fridge or something, whatever the problem is. And my sister-in-law just had her compressor changed recently, and it cost her nearly $400. So I was like, oh man, okay, if they're gonna ask me to change the compressor, I might as well buy a new fridge. So all these things are what I'm thinking of, just stressed out. And then I started YouTubing stuff of like, I started Googling, as the nerd I am, to, symptoms of like so the freezer was cold, but the fridge was not. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? Then it says on a YouTube, and it said in a YouTube video, check the evaporator fan. I was like, where's the evaporator fan? I started Googling more YouTube videos, and I saw a YouTube video that was not the same fridge as mine, but it was similar enough. And he kind of unscrewed the back panel of the freezer and then pulled it out a certain way. I copied him basically, and then I did find the fan, and I tested it. I tested it as the YouTube video was testing the fan, and the fan wasn't running. So I was like, ooh, okay, at least I found the problem. And then I had WD-40 here, just literally WD-40 the fan. It started moving again. Lo and behold, fridge is fixed. And man, like I think I'm recording this episode right now at such a happy state, because for a month straight I was so stressed with like all these little things, whether it was the fridge, the car, the renovations of like because like the whole month of renovations was like every other day there was just like more money involved. I get a call from my contractor. Oh, we found this problem. Oh, we found a new leak. Oh, we found a problem in your floor, in your wall that we're gonna have to fix. If we're gonna fix this pipe, we're gonna have to do this. It was just every other day, just more money on top of just a lot. Again, like I said earlier, the final pay was nearly 3 times the initial cost estimate. So it was a lot of that. But as I wrap up my thoughts on this, I got through it. And it was a lot of, again, it's like good problems in a way that, there are people out there that have, life-threatening problems, but I think it also doesn't discount the fact that we all have our own things, whether big or small. I think this is also a reminder for myself, and maybe for you if you're listening to this, that to not feel guilty about the problems you have, that the problems you have are the problems you have, and you got to solve them, you got to do it, you got to go through it. And honestly, I feel so much I feel so proud and like stronger after all this, after a month of just what felt like never ending money draining, time draining things where I felt like at some points I couldn't work on my art. I couldn't just be myself. Wasn't home. I think that was also that what bothered me a lot was just not being home. It was uncomfortable, but and again I kept reminding myself, do the hard things. Being uncomfortable is good. Life is supposed to be hard. Everyone has it hard. Some are just stronger than others, and I want to be one of those strong people. So, yeah, this was an episode I really wanted to record because first of all, I want to tell you guys a story, and second, I think this was kind of just therapeutic to just talk about it and just sitting here happy that I got through that whole month, and I sit here proud to say that most of the big problems I thought were big, they were pretty big. You know, a lot of money lost and whatever, but for the better of things, and I don't regret anything that happened. Even that plate number thing, I don't regret it. It was all part of it. It was all part of the bigger plan, the things. The whole plate number thing. Initially, I was frustrated. I was driving home frustrated, like, man, I barely go out, and that one time I go out, this happens. So it's such a useless problem. It's like it's such a small problem, but an annoying problem. And I remember thinking to myself that I remember telling my wife, like, you know what? Maybe that person who bent my plate number, maybe he needed that. Maybe he needed to let out some steam, or maybe he would have done something worse. Maybe hurt someone physically. Maybe he needed to let it out on my car for whatever reason. And if that helped him, then sure, I'll take it. I'll take that punch. And honestly, now that I look back at it after my car is repaired and everything, I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm happy with how things happened. Hopefully that dude's doing okay. Hopefully, bending my plate number and trying to rip it off, but failing to made him feel better for that night. And I'm okay. If you're out there and for some reason you hear this, I'm all right. Hope it helped you. But yeah, that's kind of like what I want to end on. You know, do the hard things, and that's something I try to remind myself every day. When I feel tired, lazy, not wanting to do something, just do it. If it's hard, it's supposed to be hard. Everyone's having a hard time, and those who come out on the other side and come out a stronger person and come out to be able to reach goals they want to reach are people who did it who did that one more rep more than the other one did. And let's be that dude. Let's be that dude. Let's be that girl. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.